Organize Me Radio, episode 87, The Art of Organizing. I'm Naeemah Ford Goldson. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Organize Me Radio. I'm Naeemah Ford Goldson, and today's guest is the author of The Art of Organizing, an artful guide to an organized life. Please welcome Nicole Gabai. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Naeemah.
Nicole, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to chat with you and learn more about your book. But first, can you tell us how'd you get your start in the organizing industry?
So that is, it's an interesting question because I didn't come in a very straight path. I was actually working in TV production for about 10 years, and I lived in New York. And I went to art school first, and then I started in production. And I was working at a commercial production company in Manhattan, and I would go to all the production meetings, behind the scenes. I was a production manager, and it came to a point where we were doing commercials for Olive Garden, among many other, products and restaurants, et cetera. And they would always ask me when I went into the ad agency, "Oh, hi, are you here for the audition?" And I would be like, "Oh, no, because I work behind the scenes." And it started happening so frequently that I decided I was going to take that leap. And it was a secret wish of mine that I always wanted to do, but I really didn't know about that part of the business. And my boss helped me get started, helped me get an agent and pictures. And I left my job, that job security, and suddenly I was, aware that I need a day job. And most of my friends at that time were working in restaurants, and I didn't want to do the night shift and things like that, especially if I was modeling. So I organized a friend's office, and she was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." Now, this is 1999. So this was not really an industry. And I organized someone else's closet, and she was thrilled. And then I started seeing Julie Morgenstern giving talks in New York. So I went to see her, and I realized this, in fact, could be a business. So that's how my business was born. So it was pretty organic.
That is so interesting. Your background. I always love hearing everyone's backstory of how they got started in the industry because, like you said, it's the industry isn't like it is today, right? Like when we started. So everyone had I guess a past life career or
Right.
however you want to say it. And I think that's
Exactly.
so fun. Like that, how fun. I love that. Before we talk about your book, I'd love to know a little bit more about your organizing business. So, can you tell us a little bit more about your organizing business and what it is that you specialize in?
Yeah, of course. So that also has evolved a bit over time because of all my skills I was learning in TV production, which was systems, how to make systems, create them, manage them, and how to file for retrieval and store for retrieval. Like that was the theme that I kept learning. So that's what I've always brought to my clients. And so mostly my work for 23 years has been one-on-one. It's working directly with my clients in 3 to 5 hour blocks of time. And, it's a process. So it does take time. And that had been my business model for a very long time. But recently, about a year ago, right when my book was being published, after it got published, I decided to get certified in virtual organizing. So now I'm a certified virtual organizing professional. I'm only one of about 100 people in the world that's certified now. And, other people probably offer that as a service, but it's different when you have many years experience, and the certification was really important. So I am transitioning my business model a little more towards that. And virtual organizing is unique and really effective in many ways. It allows me to work one-on-one with my clients, and it's in real time. It's as if I'm sitting right next to the client, but we're doing it virtually, and the sessions are only an hour at a time because it's pretty intense. And it's a more flexible way for people to incorporate that into their life, to not have to carve out 6 hours or whatever. And we have learned now, this there's science behind it, which is that people are getting what's known as a skill transfer. So people are actually learning new ways of thinking and new ways of organizing to maintain themselves. And that has been a huge plus really for that part of the industry, because we've now learned that we have neuroplasticity and we are always learning. It used to be we thought our brains stopped learning at 8 years old, and you were like a sponge, but now we just coast along. And we know now with so much science that actually when you are doing the skill transfer in virtual organizing. I know this is getting a little deepy dive, but it's fascinating to me because you're building new synapses. So your old habits that got you into the disorder to begin with, those habits start changing and you're building new synapses. You're learning new ways of doing things and you're changing the way you think. So I'm fascinated by it, and it's been very successful. So that's kind of what I'm doing these days.
I love that. Especially, I feel like, it's like a new wave, especially after COVID and
Yeah.
being able to help more people. So, kudos to you. I like that.
Thank you. Yeah, that was another thing. It's like, COVID, there were a lot of great things born out of that time. It was awful and, we all felt it. But now look at how we do business. We change
Yeah.
so many things about how we learn and how we help each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, The Art of Organizing. Tell us a
Mhm.
little bit more about your book. What inspired you to create this book, and how does it stand out from other books on organization?
Yeah. So, um, in all my years of organizing with clients one on one, I was always, kind of repeating the same process to teach the system and explain the system that we would be applying. And I was repeating it over and over. And I did adult education classes, and I taught um, seminars, and I did workshops for many years, and I wrote a column in a magazine, and I kept on saying the same principles over and over. And I people came to me and said, "Oh, can you teach us back to one, or can you teach this group about your halfway book?" And there would be a lot of positive feedback on these kind of overarching principles that I kept on repeating. And I realized I would love to put this in a book one day and help more people, not just one on one, and make it accessible to more people. So I, always, that again, my dream project, and we always, keep our goals in mind. And then I had the opportunity to really focus on it. But it took 9 years. So it was uh, something that I do intuitively. I had to learn literally how to articulate it into a linear fashion. So I feel like my book, there are many books out there on organizing. Most are very text heavy. I think they're kind of dense, they're hard to really grasp all at once. And I wanted my book to be easy and fun to read and have a lot of pop up boxes. So if you just wanted to refer to one thing in one chapter, you would see it right away. It's very colorful. And as I have an art background, I did over 80 illustrations for the book. So it's in
Wow.
full color. Yeah. And I'll show you a little up close. I just wanted it to be fun. And a lot of kids love it. So 8, 9, and 10-year olds are loving this book. And it just has, a lot of color and just a lot of easy to read tips and ideas and tried and true, things that I've learned along the way for many, many years.
I love that because I feel like, as we evolve, our attention spans are shrinking.
Yes. Especially now with technology. It's like
Yeah,
you can't leave your attention on anything too long because the next thing already came by. So
right.
you kind of have to our synapses have changed. We've learned to think differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting, but I think, having a book that, has color, isn't so heavy on, wording in it. I think that is just, I think that would resonate with a lot of people. Like you said, kids like it too, right? So my
Yeah,
son would
definitely.
probably, enjoy, reading that book, looking at it, because I
Yes.
think these days kids are really into graphic novels, you know? So,
Exactly. Everything is visual.
yeah.
Video games, the way they learn at school, teaching, everything is so visual. And I'm visual. I'm an artist. So I wanted this book, it's for everybody, but I think it really appeals to the creatives out there, those of us who think different and kind of need a different approach. I wanted to illustrate my system, and that's another part of it. As my art background, I incorporated my 6-step process, comparing it to the color wheel. So I have my first three principles, which are like the first three primary colors, and then the second three principles with the secondary colors. So I'll touch upon that a little further as we continue our conversation.
I love that. So, how can readers identify their organizing style and then, utilize that effectively?
Yeah, that's a great question because I feel that organizing is a skill and it's something that anybody can learn. Um, I don't, I don't see it as a style. I see it as you need some basics. We need this foundation. So in my 6-step process, I always start with what I call sectional organizing. And that means dividing a room up into sections for what you will use each section for. So if you're in the living room, maybe one area is for games, another area is for sitting and having, friends over. Another area might be for TV watching. It might all be the same, but where you store things will be slightly different. And same with any room, a bedroom, your office. Dividing into sections helps you sort what's there. So that's the sectional part. While you divide things into sections, you're also sorting, getting rid of what's trash, deciding what you're going to donate. And then after that, we discuss zones. And the zones process, that part of the principles, allows you to prioritize where things get stored. So, not giving the same importance to all your belongings. So, in that case, zone one items are the things you need at your fingertips. What are the things you use most frequently? So that even in a kitchen, have your utensils and your plateware, anything you need right away, right near you. But you might have second or third set of dishes. It might be heirloom family, something that has been handed down. You might use those once a year. So you store those in a zone 2 or a zone 3 area. So those two principles are what I think you need a foundation of. I also feel that my years in corporate America taught me systems and how systems work, how to maintain them, and the most important thing was how to store and how to file for retrieval. So I feel like a lot of people don't have the access to working in a corporate environment, especially now. I feel like there's more entrepreneurs than ever. And if you haven't seen those systems at work, you kind of don't understand that big picture of how to maintain it. So I feel like I took that experience. I used to work at MTV and Nickelodeon and the Film Commission, and those were, even though they sound super creative, they're based on solid systems. Everything is traceable and findable. So I bring that element to it. So yeah, I think, if people buy my book, they will learn that style, that it's not really about style. I think you do need some skills that are basic.
Are there any misconceptions about organizing that you might cover in the book?
Yeah, definitely. I think one misconception is that, there's one way to do it. And if you just put your mind to it and you really focused and spent lots of time, you would get it. But I don't think that's true. Again, I think it's a skill and it's just learning the foundations and then making, adjustments personally for yourself and customizing. And that's what I do with my clients. I help customize it for them. What my book kind of tries to bring the point home is and make it fun. Like my book is colorful. I'm always saying, buy that fabulous mug for your pens and, buy the interesting notebooks that bring you joy, colorful, whatever it means to you to make it fun. So I think that's one common misconception. I think that it's very customizable. My job with My clients has always been to learn how they think. So understanding how they think, therefore I can help them, still having a baseline of foundation principles, but then adapting it to what works for them.
Does your approach to organization promote mental well-being?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I think being organized eliminates that free floating anxiety that we have when we can't find something, or we know the house is a mess and you can't have anyone over, or your car is a mess. That just causes anxiety and stress. And organizing brings order and peacefulness and mental well being. We now know also with science that our brains are geared to seek order. We always want to understand our surroundings and make sense of it. And that's hard to do if you're not organized, so that really that internal struggle is true, it's real. So I think yes, being organized does add to your mental well-being and your peacefulness.
So, what strategies do you suggest to maintain the organization long term?
Yeah, so that's I kind of overlap here because my favorite strategies are the principles I use in my book that I keep teaching to people. I've had many people call me and be like, I think different now. I make decisions differently. And that is amazing for me because then they get it. And I even had one client, several years it took to organize his home. And um, at the end, he said to me, he has a new friend, and that friend wasn't organized at all, couldn't figure out how to get papers organized or anything in his home. And my client taught him the principles I had shown him.
Wow.
So that, those are, they work. I really feel like dividing things in sections, prioritizing with zones, and then finding the right containers. Those are strategies, and I go back to them all the time. If I see an area, mudroom, for example, okay, it's overflowing, too many boots and shoes and whatever's, jackets, purses, everything can just accumulate. Then you go, okay, what is this section really intended for? Great. Anything else that doesn't belong in this section, I'm going to move it out. And then I go to zones. Do I need my winter boots? Probably not. Oh, it's spring, it's May, it's June. So where's my zone two? Where do I move that to? So I really believe in having some baseline that's pretty memorable that you can access.
So, decluttering. I feel like decluttering is a big thing with so many people.
Mm.
A lot of times, people don't necessarily know where to start. A lot of times, they're unsure of, how they should declutter. I know there was a wave of this declutter movement when Marie Kondo stepped on the scene and told everyone to get rid of everything they don't love, right? So,
Yeah,
what's your advice for decluttering? How should someone tackle the decluttering process? Because as we know, like you said, it's not one size fits all. Everyone is different, right?
right.
People
Right.
learn differently. So,
Yes.
what's your advice on decluttering?
Well, I think that is like the first step at all is the decluttering. And in terms of that, it's getting rid of, probably use your garbage bag. You're going to put a lot of stuff in there because when you begin the process, there's stuff that's accumulated, then there's the donations stuff. So decluttering, I think the most important is start in a small space, maybe one room, maybe a part of a room, maybe just the closet, and go with that sorting process where you divide things into sections and you have your boxes ready. You're keeping, you're tossing, you're donating box. And as you're sorting, that's when you're also eliminating. You start to see things, oh, that's expired. Oh, okay, those are not in style. Or, oh, those shoes hurt, they never work. Or whatever. If anything is stained, ripped, torn, broken beyond repair, those are some of your obvious declutters. The next step is where you need the skills and a little more of a process. But I think yeah, the first step is in that section zones, that initial sorting, and keep it short. Some people will say, "Oh, I'm going to be organizing this weekend, the whole weekend." And I'm like, "Oh, that sets you up for failure because 3 hours is kind of like 3 to 4 hours is our max, even as professionals, right? Because it's very intense and it's very detail oriented, minutia. So, be kind to yourself, be compassionate and patient. I think that's your best approach. And even if you did 3 hours every weekend, you'd get there. You would definitely achieve your goals. So yeah, it's a process. And it's not a one shot deal and then you're done. Because once you get to that decluttering, then you begin the organizing. And that's the next steps that can take longer.
So I feel like with that, you covered how people should start and what they should do to declutter. Now, what about developing the habits? Because you talked about how, we should organize in small amounts of times, which I completely agree with. You're definitely setting yourself up for failure if you think you're gonna spend 8 hours organizing.
Oh, no, no. Oh my God.
So
Yeah.
I completely agree with you on that. But how do we help people to develop these habits?
Well, I think as we've learned with neuroplasticity, not to get too sciency on it, but that's one really important way is learning this skill. And long term, it's all about repetition. Once you learn this skill and you keep on doing it over and over and over, it becomes a new habit. It becomes part of your routine. And another concept that I do talk about in my book, um, it's called back to one. And that's super important. And what that means is in my days of working in production, when you're on a set and there's numerous people involved, not just the actors, you have the lighting department, the art department, the wardrobe, everybody's in there weighing their decision and whatever. So once the actors come in, then everything gets moved around. But before they came in, everyone agreed how that set should look. So each thing is meticulously placed because that's what everyone agreed on for every reason, lighting, sound, you name it. Now, actors come in, they move stuff around, the scene takes place, something happened, maybe an airplane flew over, who knows? And the director yells, cut. Okay, everyone stop. But the place got messed up. So now everyone goes back to one. And that's what they call it. Director will say, okay, everybody back to one. And everyone knew what that baseline was, where the actor should stand, but also where all the furniture was placed, where all the decor was going to be. And that's what I call in my 6 step process back to one. So that your maintenance is part of that is to bring your home, your space back to that baseline that you established. So I call that back to one. I think it's really important to do it if you can't do it, but every night is ideal, 15 minutes at the end of a day, or else you spend a few hours on the weekend. But that's really the repetition of that is the habit changing. That is establishing a new routine for yourself.
I love that back to one. I'm going to use that with my kids.
I think
I love it. I love it.
I just feel like it illustrates it. People understand when I explain that, they're like, oh, and then I'll say, but first we need to get what does back to one look like?
Oh my
So that,
goodness. So for me, that was just like kind of like an aha, especially like the way you explained it.
yeah,
And I feel like that's in a way where, anyone can really understand, like if they don't grasp the concept of organizing, saying something
right.
like that is like, oh, okay. So I do have to maintain it. I have
Yes,
to do this in order to stay organized, even if it's
right.
just 15 minutes at the end of the night to
Yeah,
put all the toys away or,
exactly.
get the dishes out of the sink or whatever
Yes,
it is, then,
right,
you
right.
go back to one,
Back to
like just to
one.
reset.
You reset. Exactly. I love that. And I try to do that too. Like, I don't want to go to sleep with my kitchen a mess. And I wake up and it's like, oh, you want to get back to one in each room as you can.
Yeah.
And teaching kids that, I mean, kids, love to get organized.
Oh, yeah.
When I teach them about a label maker, that's it. I don't even see them for hours. They're like labeling everything. Dog bed,
I can
They're all
relate.
Every single thing will get labels. So kids gravitate to that. They need order. I mean, instinctively, I think we all seek that, but it's a matter of, how we learn it.
So, what do you hope readers gain from your book, and how will it impact their lives?
Well, I hope they are inspired to start small, baby steps, and realize that it is a process. It's not just steps one, two, three, and then we're good. It involves an emotional component, when you're excavating, if you will, and you're really going through stuff to do your decluttering and begin to do your sections and zones. There's a lot of emotional things that come up. You dig up old letters, old photos, old memorabilia. So just know that it is a process and accept that it's okay. It does take time. And, a lot of people I've met, they feel guilty or they feel ashamed that why can't I do this? And my mom says I know what to do, so why can't I do it? Well, it's not that simple. It really isn't. And I've had moms tell me, why don't they teach this to kids in school? Like, so I hope that people see that it is an approachable process with the book and also to make it fun. I've had a lot of clients tell me, oh, you're making this so much fun. And I'm like, well, I know because it is fun. So at least for me. So that I want people to walk away with that, like feeling like, okay, I can do this. I can start today. Doesn't have to be the whole house, but yeah, and that's really what I'm hoping that people get out of that.
I love the making it fun part because for me, working out has to be fun in order for me to enjoy
Everything,
it because
right?
I loathe working out. I
Uh,
don't like it, but I know it's necessary. So for
Right.
me, I'll
Yep.
do a class rather than working out on my own or rather than
Right.
just going to the gym to lift weights because for me, that's boring, it's
Um,
monotonous. But if I'm in a
yeah.
class, there are other people around, the instructors
Yes.
are usually fun. So
Yes.
it's fun. So I'm more likely to do it. So I
And
love
go
that
back.
people have told
Yes.
you, that you make it
Exactly.
fun.
Exactly. And then you want to do it again,
Right.
so it does have to be fun. And there are ways to make it fun. So I have included some ideas in the book of, whatever is meaningful to you to incorporate that. It doesn't, not all organized offices have to look like you're in a, corporate computer lab or something. It's got to have our personality, our own touch to it, so that you want to walk in there and actually do the thing, work, go to your room, go to your kitchen. You want to be in those spaces. So yeah.
Okay. I love it. Love all that information about your book. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Oh, you're welcome.
I appreciate it. Now, one of my favorite things to ask everyone is what are some of your favorite organizing products or productivity tools?
Yes, I love thinking about that, of course, because I'm like a, you know, productivity, I don't know, and gadget person. I'm always looking for new ways, new things. But I have to say, the most important thing about of all is my label maker. That is number one, hands down, my favorite. Still use it all the time. Um, sometimes it takes maybe a minute longer than it does to handwrite a file folder name. But the more beautiful your folders are, the more apt you are to use it. So why not just take that moment up front, set it up, then you're good. So definitely the label maker, file folders. I love using clear plastic shoe boxes that are drawers. So not the kind you stack and can't reach the bottom one, but you stack them and you pull the little drawer out. I love those. I love it for makeup. I love it for the bathroom, for toiletries, for your medicine cabinet, not just for shoes, and there's other ways to use them. I love shelving of any kind. I think shelves are super important. You can stack them in your room and each category of undergarments can go in a little drawer. And it helps kids stay organized because you can label them. And I love that. Also, drawer inserts. I think that's really important. If you look at a drawer and you don't have inserts in it, then you're looking at just a mixy match puzzle of things. And all it takes is find some pretty boxes or they have drawer dividers find something that works for you, but each section should be very clear for you. So I love those. Those would be my top favorites right there.
I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay. So, can you also tell me what is your greatest professional achievement?
Well, I would have to say my book. Bringing this, it felt like bringing a baby to life. It took 9 years. It was a wonderful process. It was fun actually. I really enjoyed it. The illustrations to me was really a big part of it. When I would meet new clients, I was often drawing something for them. I'd be like, "Hey, you need a magazine box here." They'd be like, "What is that?" And I draw a picture, and they'd be like, "Oh, of course, yes, like, that would really work well." Or I would draw the shoe shelves. I said, "These shoe shelves are very practical," and they don't know what I mean. And then I drew them a picture. So I thought, for me, because I'm so visual, I wanted to incorporate that in the book because there's places in the book where you can read about it, but you need to see it. And I don't know that a photograph always illustrates it best. I am an illustrator. So I wanted to be specific in like, what are your zone one items that you need in your office? And show that desk layout, things like that, that I wanted to think it through carefully. So this was a culmination, I'd say, of my 23 years of organizing experience. I put a lot of anecdotes and stories that I was privileged to work with clients, and I anonymously, of course, shared some stories. And I wanted to really bring in so much of what I've learned. And it's a it's a big trust factor that we have and our clients have with us to welcome us into their very private personal space. And I wanted to be able to bring that in, but not reveal anything that's uncomfortable for somebody. But um, so it took time to think it through, and which message pertained in which part of the book. And um, it was fun. It was a great process. It was very mm, challenging, but because I knew nothing about writing a book, but I learned so much. And yeah, so I'm proud of it. It came out good.
Nicole, thank you so much for sharing all of this information with us, letting us know a little bit more about your book. Can you tell everyone how they can find out more information about you and then where they can purchase your book?
Yes, of course. So my book is available at any bookstore. If they don't have it on the shelf, you can ask for it. I have an international distributor, so any bookstore can order them. It's also available on Amazon, and you can find me also on my Instagram, which is at Nicole Gabai. Gabai is my last name, and my website is www.b, like the letter B like boy, hyphen organized.net.
Nicole, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Naeemah. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you all for joining us. Be sure to tune in next time for an all new episode.